Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at weiß, nahe and Ende, which translates to "Who knows how near to me is my end." This is a pretty straightforward chorale, not too much to say about it before the analysis, so we're just going to hop right in. Two flats in the key signature, we start on G minor, we end on G major. I reckon we're in the key of G minor here. We move immediately from G minor to another G minor chord, just some vocal rotation going on. G, B flat, D, and G. And then we continue probably the most common progression we see at the beginning of the chorales. 1, 5, 6, 5 going to 1. This is D major over F sharp, A, D, and A, which is 5, 6 like I just said. And then G minor again, G, G, D, and B flat, which is another tonic triad, 1, 5, 6, 1. And as we're closing in on our half cadence, we have another D major chord here, D, F sharp, D, and A, which is D major in root position this time. And then we have a deceptive progression, E flat, G, B flat, and G, which is E flat major in root position, or our submediant. We then have C, C, E flat, and A, which is A diminished over C, which is 2, 6. Bach loves his 2-6 chord. And then we have D, A, D, and F sharp, which is our dominant yet again, D major. And then we cadence on D major again after this long D major chord. We have another D major chord. Maybe the most interesting part of the chorale is the cross relation we have here after this half cadence. We have the F sharp and the F natural happening within a beat of one another, which makes this feel like a direct modulation to the key of B flat before inevitably going back to the key of G minor to conclude the phrase with a perfect authentic cadence in the key of G minor. But to get there, it really does feel like we are going to the key of B flat. We have D, A, D, and F, which is D minor. The juxtaposition of D major and D minor really feels like there are two different keys at play here over the course of this system. And this D minor chord feels like 3 in the key of B flat rather than minor 5 in the key of G minor. We then have G minor, G, B flat, D, and F, but G minor 7, so this would be a 6-7 chord. 3 going to 6 is a good sign because 3 going to 6 is a normative progression via the cycle of falling fifths. And typically in I guess major and minor keys, we wouldn't expect to see an accented 7th in the context of a tonic chord, so this clearly indicates a chord that's not functioning as a tonic, or it's not the tonic chord of the key, but 6-7 is a relatively common chord, so I feel like that's the direction we're going. We then have A, F, C, and E flat. That is F7 over A, which is 5, 6, 5. And then we have B flat major, B flat, F, B flat, and D, which is our tonic triad. And I believe that this is where we're going. Oh no, apologies, I don't think we're modulating here. I think we're modulating on this chord right here. Even though you could very easily say that we're modulating over this chord, the modulation occurs somewhere in this zone. But I chose to mark the analysis for the modulation on beat 2. We have E flat, G, B flat, and G, which is E flat major in root position. That's our 4 chord in the key of B flat, but it is also our 6 chord in the key of G minor, as we learned earlier in the first phrase. And then we have some passing tones going on, which interestingly spell another triad, or it's not really a triad, another chord that creates a normative progression. We have E flat, A, C, and G, which is A minor 7 flat 5 over E flat, which is 2, 4, 3. 6 going to 2 is a normative progression via the cycle of falling fifths, the same way 3 wants to go to 6. And then 2 goes to not 5, but the 5 is in the bass. We have D, B flat, D, and G, which is G minor in second inversion, and is our tonic triad in second inversion, which is often an accessory to the dominant, which is where 2 wants to go, and eventually resolves to D, A, D, and F sharp, which is our dominant, and sometimes we use this bracket notation to signify the relationship between the two, because they often occur as a pair, but it's not really necessary unless it's something that you need to mark on your page. I do it out of habit. And then we have G minor, G, B flat, D, and G, ending our A section with a perfect authentic cadence. Okay, looking ahead, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B flat major, and I believe we don't modulate straight away, but somewhere in this vicinity here. I marked the modulation on beat 1 of the first complete measure of this phrase, but we start things off with D major, D, D, F sharp, and A, which is our 5 chord, and that goes to G minor, G, D, G, and B flat, which is our tonic triad, and it also happens to be our submediant in the key of B flat major, our 6, and that takes us to F major over A, C, F, and C, which is 5, 6. It's our dominant in first inversion, and then we go to our tonic triad, B flat major, B flat, F, and D. And we are in the key of B flat for the rest of the phrase. We have G, B flat, G, and D. That's G minor in root position, which is 6. We then have E flat, B flat, G, and C, which is C minor 7 over E flat, which is 2, 6, 5. We know that Bach loves 2, 6, 5 chords. And then we have F, A, F, and C, which is our dominant F major. 2, 6, 5 commonly goes to 5. And then 5 we would expect to go to 1, which it does. B flat, D, F, and B flat. Perfect authentic cadence. Okay, looking ahead, we have a phrase in the key of G minor, and I think we modulate straight away. And our chorale ends as we would expect with a perfect authentic cadence in the key of G minor. So starting things off, we have another B flat major chord. 3 of the voices rotate, or I guess more specifically, the melody and the tenor rotate, but the bass leaps up an octave, giving that illusion that it's rotating, but it's really just voicing the same note an octave higher. But then we have B flat, F, and D, which is our tonic again. We don't need to reanalyze that. In the key of G minor, this is also our mediant, our 3. And then we have 3 going in the transitive direction. This is a transitive progression because we have A, C, F sharp, and C, which is F sharp diminished over A. 7, 6. 7 typically wants to go to 3, but as I've explained in previous videos, this is also sort of a byproduct of chromatically ascending line in the alto, which is always interesting to see, not just specifically in the alto, but chromatic lines in general in Bach's music create interesting progressions. But the idea of the transitive progression being that typically chords want to go down a fifth. That's generally the preferred destination, and that's just how it sort of works out in tonal harmony, or it's one of the likely places that a chord would want to go is to the diatonic fifth below it. But if a chord can go a diatonic fifth below it via smooth voice leading, why can't it go back in the other direction? That's exactly what this is demonstrating, that idea that the chord can go against the grain and still result in the same voice leading, just in the opposite direction. It's just another way of approaching a dominant chord, which inevitably will take you to the tonic, right? Going to 7 or going to 5, or to another chord that wants to go to the tonic like 4, or really any other chord. Here we have G, D, G, and B flat. That's our tonic triad, G minor in root position. And then we have C, E flat, G, and A, which is A minor 7 flat 5 over C, 2, 6, 5. It's kind of interesting to see a 2, 6, 5 chord far away from the cadence. I guess, you're looking, it's like Forest, it's not far away from the cadence, it's only 2 beats from the cadence, but the phrase is relatively small, so seeing a 2, 6, 5 chord mid-phrase is unusual, that's for sure. These are typically chords that are reserved for cadential situations, but here we are seeing it in the middle of a phrase. And following this 2, 6, 5 chord, as a result of a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm, we have D, D, F sharp carrying it over from beat 1, and A, which is D major in root position. That's a 5 chord, so 2, 6, 5 going to 5. We're seeing a cadential progression in the middle of the phrase, which is really cool. And since this 5 chord exists, I'm going to call this C a passing tone now because we have a subdivision of the harmonic rhythm here, so this C is a passing 7th now, even though it is also a chord tone from the chord that happens on the harmonic rhythm. This 5 chord goes not to G minor, it almost goes to G minor, but we have an E flat in the bass, so E flat, B flat, G, and G, which is E flat major, that's 6, and as we learned from the first phrase, this is a deceptive progression. And then we have some passing tones where we are seeing a very similar progression to what we saw here in phrase 2. We have E flat, C, G, and A, which is A minor 7 flat 5 over E flat this time, so that would be 2, 4, 3, half diminished. And 6 going to 2 is a good sign, 2 going to 5 is a good sign, because those are both normative progressions where we would expect them to go. And now we are in the cadential portion of the phrase. We have D, D, G, and B flat, just like how we had at the end of our A section. This is G minor over D, or 1, 6, 4. Neighbor tone in the bass. We then have D, D, F sharp, and A, which is D major in root position, which is what we would expect to follow a G minor chord in second inversion. Again with the brackets. We have a passing 7th in the tenor. You know, interestingly, we have not had a lot of passing tones or non-chord tones in general. This is just a lot of quarter notes and half notes, which is very interesting. All of the passing tones that we've had, or all of the non-chord tones that we've had in this chorale so far, have all contributed to some type of subdivision of the harmonic rhythm. The only exception being this C here and this C here. At least the way that I analyzed the chorale, everything else was a chord tone. That's very fascinating. This might be the least number of non-chord tones I've encountered in a chorale so far. So, very fascinating. Typically, these chorales are like ripe with all sorts of counterpoint and different rhythms, like you see like in the cadences. They're not contrapuntal at all. It's all first species. But regardless, we're going to close off our analysis today by analyzing this G major chord, G, B natural, D, and G, which is our tonic. Our major tonic, more specifically, as Bach often ends his minor chorales with a major tonic to, I imagine, just leave the listeners on a more uplifting note, because it's the last thing they're going to hear. But on that note, I'm going to end today's video. Relatively short analysis today because the chorale is relatively plain texture-wise. It's really cool that Bach was able to create a very beautiful chorale with very modest means. I wonder why this chorale is as plain as it is. It's always very fascinating. You know, it's like we can wonder why a chorale is so dense versus why some chorales are so plain. It makes you really wonder what Bach was thinking at the time, and I really do think the beautiful, maybe like the high point of this chorale comes relatively early with this F versus F sharp going on here in the A section. I thought that was a particularly beautiful moment to listen to, and then uncovering why that moment sounded beautiful through analysis just helped me form a stronger relationship with the music, and that's exactly what I hope you are able to do when looking at music critically as well. But on that note, if you're interested in following me along on this journey to analyze all of the chorale harmonizations, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification icon. I upload once a day and you'll be notified of when that video goes live. If you'd like a daily dose of Bach or a daily fix of analysis, you'll find it here on my channel, and there are hundreds of videos scheduled for the future. So if this is the kind of content you're interested in, I'd be more than happy to have you along for the ride. But on that note, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel by watching this video as well. It means a lot to me that people are watching and engaging with the videos. I've made more than 200 episodes now, and there's no plan on stopping anytime soon. But on that note, I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.